I'll show you how to use a PanedWindow widget in Pygubu Designer. In the example project, we will create a chat user interface. It will contain two panes, one on the left and one on the right. The user will be able to resize the two panes by clicking and dragging. Join me as we start to look at the PanedWindow widget in Tkinter using Pygubu Designer.
Hi, my name is Jobin, and I'm an open source developer. My channel is called Jobin Pi, and it's all about Python and Linux. Welcome to Jobin Pi.
So in this video, I want to show you how to create a user interface for a chat program. So here's an example. It kind of looks like an IRC chat program. So you have an entry widget at the bottom. This is where you type in a message. So if you're chatting with someone else, you would write, "Hi, how are you?" like that. And when you hit the enter key, then the message will appear in this big text widget. So in this section here, the names of all the users that are in the chat room will appear like in this tree view here. I won't actually write the Python code for this program. This is just the user interface. And so again, the entry widget down here is where you type a message, then the message will appear publicly here, and you would have a list of people that are in the current chat room in this tree view widget here. Okay, so how do we actually create a user interface like this? I'll show you how to create this. So in Pygubu Designer, the first thing I'll do is I'm going to create a top level widget here. Then in the top level widget, I'm going to add a frame. So that frame, I want it to cover the entire top level window. And here, top level doesn't always mean it's a second window, although in the world of Tkinter it does. But here, top level in Pygubu Designer could also be your main root window. So if you look under containers, there's no widget that says root. That's because top level here can function as a root window or a actual top level widget. So in this case, top level will actually be our root window. Okay, so I'm going to add a frame to it. And notice that if I resize my window, the frame doesn't resize with it. So that's where things like sticky options for grid come into play, and also the weight option. So I'm using grid to put these on the screen. And in Pygubu Designer, you can specify what your default geometry manager is. As you probably know, in Tkinter, you can either use pack, grid, or place. I usually like to use grid. That's my favorite geometry manager. My second choice would be pack, and my last choice would be place. Right now, the default is set to grid, and I can actually set the default if I go to Edit and Preferences. My default layout manager is set to grid, but I can easily change that. Another way you can see if a widget is using grid or not is if you see numbers here. So under row and column R and C, I see 0, 0. If this was pack or place, we wouldn't see anything there. Okay, so if I click on the frame and then click on layout, I can set the sticky option. I'm going to click and drag, so I'm going to create a square, then I'm going to let go of the mouse, and it covers all sides now. And notice now if I resize the window, it still doesn't actually stretch with the window. And that's because in top level, I need to set the grid options. So in other words, in the top level window, I need to set the weight of the rows and the columns. So right now, the frame is in row 0 and column 0, but row 0 and column 0 don't currently have a weight. The weight is 0. And how do I know that? Well, if I click on top level, which is the parent of this frame, then here we can see that it says grid row column options. And we're currently looking at row 0 and column 0. So the weight for row 0 is 0. I'm going to change this to a 1. And watch what happens now. If I expand this, it expands vertically. So we can see it stretching up and down. But when I go horizontally, left and right, it still doesn't expand with the window. So this frame is not expanding with the window the way that I want. So again, I'm going to click on the top level widget here, the top level window, and I'm going to set the column index for column 0. I'm going to set the weight to 1. Now watch what happens. There we go. So now it's stretching just the way that I want. So what about the sticky options? What are those used for? Well, let's change this back to centered and expand it and see what it looks like. So you can see that it's centered, but it's not sticking to the sides. So if I wanted to stick to the sides, I'm just going to select all the sides here and let go of the mouse. Now it's set to north, south, east, and west. Like that. So the grid options are actually really important if you want to get the layout to look exactly the way that you want. So now that we have the frame created, I'm going to go over to containers and paned window. I'm going to click on that. Actually, I want to create this paned window in that frame. So I'm going to right click on this, cut it, click on the frame, and right click and then paste it. So I essentially moved that paned window under this frame. Or if I wanted to start over and show you how to do it properly from the beginning, I'm just going to right click and delete that pane window. So whichever widget that you're on, the widgets that go under it, like in this case the frame, if I want to put something in the frame, I have to click on the frame first and then click on the widget that I want to put in that frame. So I'm going to click on pane window again, and now it properly put the pane window inside that frame. Okay, so now that we have a paned window, I want to add some actual panes. So I'm going to click on Pygubu helper, and there's a paned window.pane. I'm going to add that to this paned window widget. There's one. I'm going to add another one as well. So one pane is going to be used for the text widget, the portion that shows the public chat messages. The other pane on the right hand side is going to show a list of users that are in the chat room. So there's two panes, one on the left and one on the right. The one I'm creating now, it's going to be the one for the left side. It's going to be the one that contains the public chat messages. Okay, so now that we have that paned window, in that paned window, I'm going to create a text widget. I'm going to put a text widget inside that paned window. So control and display, and there's text. There we go. So that paned window has a text widget in it now. Then I'm going to click on paned window up here. I'm just going to expand this here, and I'm going to create another pane. So I'm going to click on Pygubu helpers, and then click on paned window.pane. Okay, so now we have two panes here, and in this right pane, I'm going to create a treeview widget, or I'm going to put a treeview widget. So I'm going to click on containers. It's actually under control and display. And then I'm going to click on treeview. All right, there it is. And to get a better idea of what we're actually doing here, I'm going to expand this window. And we can see that this paned window is not expanding with our window. So we have to do something with the weight of this as well. So anytime we want to adjust the weight, we have to go to the parent of the widget that we want moved. So I'm going to click on paned window, and the parent of paned window is frame. And another way you can go to its parent is if you right click on it, there's an option that says go to parent. So I'm going to click on that, it goes to the parent of the paned window, which is the frame, the first frame that we created. Then under layout, we need to set the weight for row 0 and column 0. Why row 0 and why column 0? Well, that's where the paned window is. It's in row 0 and in column 0. Okay, so here I'm going to set the weight for the row to 1. And let's try that. Okay, so it seems to be working. It's not stretching. We have to set the sticky option, but we'll work on that here shortly. And I'm going to set the column weight to 1 as well. Okay, so now I'm going to click on paned window, and I'm going to set the sticky option like that, north and south. But I don't want it to appear in the middle like this. I want it to appear on the left-hand side. Okay, that looks better. So now it's set to north, south, and west. That's what the sticky option is set to. So the next thing we should do is we should set the sticky option of the text widget. So I'm going to click on the text widget, go to the layout tab, and set it to all sides. Set the sticky to all sides. And actually, the other thing we needed to do is under paned window, it's sticking to the left. We actually need to set this to all sides, like that. So it's set to north, south, east, and west. So the paned window should actually be north, south, east, and west. So now if I expand it, we can see the text widget on the left, and we can see the tree view widget on the right-hand side. Okay, so we want to make it so that when we resize our window, it would be best if the tree view widget doesn't get resized along with it. So we only want the text widget to resize when we're resizing this window. To do that, I'm going to click on PanedWindow.pane, and here under appearance, I'm going to set its weight to 0. And watch what happens now. So if when I resize it, the right-hand pane doesn't get resized at all. It's always the left pane that's getting resized when I'm resizing the window. Another neat thing that you can do here is you can adjust the size of these panes with your mouse. And that's the useful thing about a paned window. And Pygubu makes it easy to create something like this. Okay, and the last thing that we need is an entry widget at the bottom. So for that, I'm going to click on the frame, then I'm going to click on entry, and that looks good so far. We just need it to stick to the left and the right. So I'm going to click on layout. The sticky will be east and west, like that. And let's just preview this. So I'm going to go to preview and then preview on top level. And if I expand this, we can see that it gives us the results that we're looking for. So there's a couple of more things. The first thing is that the color of this text widget doesn't match the tree view and the entry widget. So I'm going to click on it, go to appearance, and here I'm going to go to background here. Just going to expand this so we can see all the buttons. I'm going to click on that magnifying glass. I'm going to change it to white. And there we go. So now that matches. And I'm going to click on the tree view widget here. And a neat thing that we can do with this is notice how the tree view widget doesn't have a header text at the top. So it's just blank. So we can use one of the Pygubu helpers to add a column to this tree view widget. To do that, I'm going to click on the tree view widget, then go to Pygubu helpers, and then click on treeview.column. And when I do that, we can see that it created a column here for me automatically. And I can set the text. So here I'm going to call it nicknames. And the reason why any change I make, the reason why it shrinks like this is because I need to actually set a proper size for this window. Right now it's too small. So maybe I should do that now. So I'm going to set the geometry to, let's try 800 by 600. or maybe 1024 by 768. Yep, something like that. So going back to the treeview widget, I want the nicknames text to appear in this column, not the column on the right. So to do that, I can click on treeview.column here, and then there's an option that says tree column. I'm just going to set this to true. Now this is the tree column, or the very first column in the treeview widget. Okay, and now we have the result that we're looking for. If I preview this, we can see that it does exactly what we want. And I can resize this, and in just a few minutes we've created a chat user interface which resizes when we resize the window, and it also supports a pane where you can resize this and have different widgets go to different sizes. So there's a lot of neat things that you can do with Pygubu Designer using a paned window.
We saw how the paned window widget works in Pygubu Designer. Sometimes it takes a bit of experimenting to get the result that you're looking for. Pygubu Designer can make it fast and easy to create panes. Until the next tutorial, thanks for watching.